Hi, I'm Doreen Barnes, and welcome to A Reader's Corner. I've known our next author, who is a new author, for many years, and I'm so glad that he has taken the pen and put it to paper. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about J.D. Van Allen, and he's written a book which is called Before the Design. So let's talk to J.D. and find out what the content is. So why'd you write the book?
This started as a 4-page document for my clients.
Yes.
I do a lot of design work, whether it's timber frames or orchards and landscaping. And a lot of people didn't actually know what they wanted. So I wanted to go through a worksheet of what are your values, what are your actual goals, and working through a simple process to make sure they got the most out of the design process. And it turned into a book.
With X number of pages, right?
Yes, it was a lot more pages than 4.
Well, sometimes that happens though. But what is nice about this, people will have the benefit of reading it. And one thing that I have noticed with your book, essential steps before beginning any design. Well, it's the essential steps before beginning any project.
Yes.
You can actually take what is in here and apply it to everyday life. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
So see, you have the bookmark that I keep handy usually. I dropped it in the car just before coming in here. And it has the simple steps I go through if I'm making a little advertisement for something, because it just has the simple steps of here. So I remember, okay, what are my values that I'm doing in this? What applies? And then this whole book becomes it can be a 5-minute process for small projects, or when I'm designing a full orchard or something, I might revisit the whole book.
And why not?
Yeah.
And why not? It's not a book that you would read and put on the shelf. It's a book that you're going to use time and time again. That's the way I look at it. So so thank you for doing this idea, because I love it. I love it. It keeps you focused.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Alrighty. So what is permacultural gardening practices?
So permaculture is a design science. Essentially, it means working with nature to fix human problems.
Oh, okay.
So in a lot of cases, it applies to people use it in gardening senses and growing food. So growing food with nature, so we don't have to use pesticides and herbicides. We can let nature do a lot of that work for us just by designing properly. And it just runs off of 3 main ethics, which is earth care, caring for the earth; people care, I'm going to take care of people. And then as a part of the previous 2 is kind of sharing the surplus. There's a bunch of different wordings for it.
Yes.
And it is just sharing the surplus back. Whatever you don't need, give it back. If it's, I finish eating my dinner and there's a little bit left, well, it can go back in the form of compost.
Yes.
Or it can be, I harvested way more berries than what I knew what to do with this year. So we gave some away on the local free page.
That's nice. That's very, very nice. So I look at this as specialized work. Would you say that it is specialized work?
Definitely. It is. Yeah, it's not a very common field. So I typically simplify it to, I do edible landscaping design, which is still a little bit niche. So
our property, like professional property designers, are there are they hard to find, I think is what I'm trying to ask.
There are a lot of them, but they specialize in different things. So I've some of them are specialized in, high-end homes with lots of hardscaping, lots of fancy rocks and layout.
Okay.
There are some of them that'll specialize more in just native gardenings, or in the fancy royal garden style. Most of the time, it's hard to find any of the edible landscaping ones. So I've been looking for other people who do it in the area, and so far I haven't found anyone.
So you want to actually speak with, and if anybody out there is listening, please,
absolutely,
contact JD and be able to talk the same language.
Yes.
It really is, because it's a different, what I've noticed in the last couple of years is a lot of talk around native plants.
Yes.
A lot. And a lot individuals seem to reach back to that, and that's what they want in their gardens now.
Yes, and I have somewhat confrontational views on that, a little bit conflicting views, is the native plants are really good because they are adapted to this area. So they will thrive here.
Right.
They're not going to spread. They're not going to cause harm. And then one of the challenges, if we only use native plants, then essentially none of the food that we eat today would be food that we would be able to grow. So native to what timeline?
Yes.
Because a lot of the things that we consider native now are only native as long as white people have been here for, because we brought them over with us. And but it's been long enough that we consider them native. So it becomes that native to what area, native to when, native to what specific
What is your
context.
definition of native?
And then there are some things that'll grow, maybe 20 kilometers over that way. It is a lot more acidic soils, and the plants that grow there aren't the same plants that grow right here.
No. Okay, I'm with you. So
there's benefit to both, and I think it is our responsibility to not plant things that are going to spread and cause harm.
Oh, no.
I think it's also the responsibility of nurseries to not sell the plants that will spread and cause harm.
I agree. Or sell them telling people, be careful, these will spread so quickly.
Yes.
And that has happened to me. Who is Bill Mollison?
Bill Mollison is one of the co-founders of permaculture. So they took the knowledge of, by talking to native groups around the world, by looking at science, by observing nature and combining it all and actually writing it down. So creating the science of essentially observing and interacting. So he's like your go-to person if you need a little bit of direction, or go-to books or whatever. Yeah, so he wrote the manual on permaculture.
He did. Okay, he is it.
It's a big, thick textbook that I've read cover to cover too many times.
Too many times and referred back to.
Yes, I still refer to it very frequently.
Whose 9-minute video did you stumble across showing you that it's possible in this climate to have the
That was Stefan Zbkowiak. He's out of Quebec.
Okay.
Yes. So I was on this desert property in Australia. It was 40,000 acres, and they could only grow about 800 cattle because it was so barren.
Really?
Yes. And I thought there had to be a better way of doing things.
Yes.
And as I was searching for that, I ended up coming across this term permaculture kept popping up, and then food forests. And then I finally found this video, and it was of it in Canada, because a lot of it's tropical. And this man had created an entire orchard, started with the traditional orchard, switched to organic, realized he was still spraying more stuff than he wanted to. So then he ripped out the orchard, not the path he would recommend in the future, but ripped out the orchard and replanted.
Okay.
And he replanted it as essentially replicating a forest, but still in rows. So you have trees and bushes and small plants and vines. And so he now, it's a U-pick orchard, and it is designed so well that he cannot take interns. He has people that want to pay him to work on his farm, and he cannot do it because there's not enough work.
Isn't that amazing, Noe?
Yeah, so when you work with nature, and so that's the way, the science that I follow. I talk about some of that in this book of I mentioned his property a few times.
Yeah.
So he's become a bit of a mentor.
Wow. Can you imagine, just thinking back, how many times he had to rethink what he was doing in order to accomplish?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of time spent.
Yes, and there's a lot of it is observation. So I talk about one of the first chapters, observe and interact. And so he had, typically in an orchard, you'll see they'll paint a lot of the trunks white. And that's because the sun reflects off the snow, it warms up the trunks, and then when it gets cold at night, it shrinks really quickly and it can cause cracking. He had painted all the trunks, but there was this one tree he didn't do because there was a bush right there.
Okay.
He realized it was okay. And there was this book on the southwest side, which is the side that the sun typically hits it and it breaks. So then he just started planting a bush on the southwest side of every tree, and it's a fruit bush. So it produces fruit, it adds another crop to his orchard, and now he doesn't have to paint his trunks because he worked with nature and he observed it. So
amazing.
Amazing how much a little observation can reduce a lot of the maintenance long term.
A lot of, as well as aggravation.
Yes.
I mean, you're trying so hard, but yet if you only took the time and looked, the answer's there.
So one of the permaculture phrases is that your best tool is the hammock. It's because where you do your thinking. So if you spend Bit of an exaggeration, but if you spend 100 hours in the hammock for every 1 hour working, then you'll be better off if you spent 100 hours working than 1 hour in the hammock. Don't take that quite literally because you'll never get anything done, but there is a balance in there.
So in 2017, you actually bought a house, didn't you?
Yes.
And you've been renovating?
Yep.
And what step is it at right now?
It is, I had renovated a front apartment, had tenants in there for the last quite a few years. We just moved in there because I got married and we had 3 kids and needed the space then.
Yes.
And then I have a 1-bedroom apartment in the back that still needs to be finished. I was tired of renovating and I was living in it, so I thought, you know what, I'll